Okay, here is the engraving ornament or logo project. So here's an example, and we'll go through and walk through a couple of those. Let's look at the design constraints first. So if we look at the design constraints, here we go. We want to be 3mm Baltic birch. We want to have a 3mm hole. Suggested sizes like 90 by 90, or if you need to go bigger than that and make it oval in shape, then try to make it, a little bit smaller so that things will still fit on a sheet of plywood. And again, obviously this is going to be metric when you do your modeling. As always, you're going to think about your design intent when you are modeling. So think about what you want the end product to be, and that's why you always want to have an idea of what you're going to do. Now this is a black and white type of engraving, and you do not want too much black space. We're going to see how I'm going to do Brutus the Buckeye and see how this comes out. It's probably going to be fairly dark. So that probably the less dark you have, the better. The other thing is, we're going to be using Fusion, but you can use an SVG converter or canvas in order to assist in creating that design. So that makes it really simple. And as with the snowflake project that we've already completed, it's going to need to be a 1-to-1 scale drawing to export it to DXF so that we can set this job up and cut it on the laser cutter. As always, we're going to have a complete notebook entry for this small project. A lot of that is just to clarify what you want to get out of it. If you have time, and some of you are going to be able to make multiple projects in the time, because this really doesn't take that long to do. Choose a teacher and find out their favorite hobby or whatever and create an ornament for them to do as a gift. At the end of your project, obviously we're going to have a little summary. What did you learn? What would you do differently? How pleased were you with the outcome, and so on. Okay, so let's go back and look at some of the examples. First of all, you can use an SVG converter. That's going to help. If we go back and look at my initial sketch, let's see, go back and look at my initial sketch. There we see the overall size centered at the origin, and I'm like 80 by 120. I have an oval. So I started out with that shape, and unfortunately it's painted black at the moment because that's how I did the coding. There we go. So, and when you look at my second sketch, what you're going to do with any additional sketches, if you're going to do an engraving, you have to have something to engrave onto. So I started out with my overall shape, and then when I go and look at my second sketch, you'll notice there's a lot of lines in drawing that Polar Express. So if I look at that sketch, that was the sketch, and I chose only to use the train from the SVG converter. It did not do a great job on the letters of Believe or the Polar Express, and the snowflakes were also kind of funky looking. So I chose to make my own. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish that. So then you kind of see. So then I use the text tools within Fusion to do Believe, and then the Polar Express, and then also for the snowflakes. Okay, depending upon your project, I think I did a similar thing for Muskie, Have a Merry Muskie Christmas. If we look at that, again, I probably started out with the overall shape of everything. Now I didn't include my little bubble for the hanger on that one. I included that or added that separately down the road. But again, I did kind of a similar thing. I did a cut engraving in of 1 millimeter on each one of those, although the distance doesn't matter, it just needs to be at a different level. And then I did my text separately. So I found the graphic of my fish, had to have my overall shape before I can start cutting. So you have to start with your overall shape. This ornament I did a little bit differently because I had a cutout. The SVG converter did not do a good job on the reindeer. So what I started with, if we go back and I can walk through the timeline, I started with my overall shape and size, and I knew I wanted a profile, so this time I used joining. And if I expand my canvases, I just brought in the basic shape of my reindeer and I simplified it a little bit. And then if we look at that sketch, you can see once I had that sketch there, I drew the basic shape of half of my reindeer head. I made sure I split that circle right down the middle and I drew half of the reindeer. And then I extruded that to make one shape and then mirrored it to make the other. And then of course reindeer needs a neck, so I followed the same process. I built half the neck. I just simplified the picture I saw because I had to draw it, mirrored it, and then created my final shape. Okay, so sometimes when you are using the SVG converter, it does not do a great job. Okay, so anyways, that's the introduction. That should give you some ideas. We'll also look at Brutus Buckeye in a separate video, because for Brutus Buckeye, what I want to do, instead of putting Brutus on a bulb, like an oval or a round shape, I want to actually cut out the shape of Brutus. One of the things when you're doing this, it often looks good to have some type of a border on your bulb. So you'll notice all of these, I had some type of a border. On the reindeer, I did not, because I already had the border and I had positive, negative space creating the border. But if it usually looks a lot better and looks a little bit more professional looking if you have a border on the outside of your bulb, if you have a round or elliptical bulb shape. Okay, so there's a brief introduction on that.